Hey, Shalom, I want to start off as by giving all praise to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushua, Hashem, Kodash, that belongs to the apostles of GMS, and honestly, brothers, doing the work in truth, what sincerity. Lord's all, you brothers can hear me while I make this video. I'm just a noisy train at the moment, right? But this is on a documentary about dark-skinned, quote, first Swedes, sparks horror on Twitter, right? And I said basically saying that the first Swedes were, quote, dark skin with blue eyes, right? And I got the what you call it, the basis for this is their their DNA stuff or whatever, what have you, right? Which let me grab that now. This is 1 Timothy 6:20. It says, "O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science, falsely so called." Right, because Esau likes to push this and that science, this and that and this science. But when you really look into it, it's flawed, right? But what I'll go about is the science of the scriptures, because we know that you had we know that you had Israelites that were living in in that land, right? Jake, you can tell by the a lot of the manifold wicked shit that they were doing, right? And the character and the kind of people they were, right? Friends, you watch, say, the Vikings, or you watch The Last Kingdom, right, and you see how they're moving, right? And then you bring that up to today. Who acts like that the most? It's not these so-called white people. It's not these Edomites, right? It's so-called these so-called black people, you Israelites, man, that really act anywhere close to how the the old Vikings were acting, man. And you read, and I love these articles because you see the comments and you see the, the tweets associated with it, and then it reminds you the hate that this man has for you, man. Right? Reminds you that this man is the devil and he doesn't like you, right? And then what does he say? If you have this one, so the Vikings were African now. Did you call it? And when you look in the history, obviously Sweden, Norway, Denmark, that area didn't exist, right? But you had when I was reading, you had Vikings from that region, right? So he says blue-eyed, black-haired, and dark-skinned, right? This is what they're saying, right? But I'll just grab this real quick. This is James 1:1. This is James, a servant of the Most High and of the Lord Yahushua Mashiach, to the 12 tribes which were scattered abroad. Right, so you have Israelites scattered everywhere, man.
The next station is Harrow on the Hill.
It's going to be a bit more.
Passengers for London Underground services, please change here. Oyster card users are reminded to touch out on the card readers before leaving the station.
Right, so I said that's lucky about that. Yeah, so you have Israelites scattered throughout the world, man, everywhere. And like I said, when you even when you look at some of those Scandinavian women, the way they're built, some of them are built like Jake women, man. I say to brothers, man, don't just jokingly, of course, right? But it's like, what is it? It's, I forget what I was saying, man. But it's something to this effect of don't miss out on that Scandinavian booty, man. Well, because like I said, they got they got hips. Some of them like the so-called black women. Right, because you would have had Israelites that were there. Right, this is Numbers 1:18. Right, it says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward by their polls. Right, so basically showing you, look, man, it's about the father's lineage, right? So if I have a child. And my child, if I have a child of a so-called white woman, and then he lives in an area, stays in an area with only so-called white women, right? And he deals with a so-called white woman, has a son, etc., etc., etc. After a couple of generations, right, that child's gonna look just like a straight up, so-called white man, right? But whose seed does it come back to? It comes back to my seed, right? Which is the mystery of the Gentiles, man. Right, which is one of the reasons why them Swedes are up in arms about the whole idea of these immigrants coming into the country. Why? Because they're like, you'll defile our, quote, pure race. Right? That's that's their take on it, which is why they hate this notion that you would have had Jakes. I mean, really, that the first Swedes were so-called black men, right? But yeah, I don't know how much more I want to go into. I think the point's really been made, right? 'Cause you have Israelites everywhere, man. You have Israelites everywhere, and hey, more and more people gonna start realizing it, man. Right? Hey, this is the time of the Gentiles, man. Well, you don't never know. You might, like I said, I was just vitamin D there, man. You had, like I said, science are falsely so cold, man. But the science of the scriptures, which science means knowledge, that can be vouched for, right? So laws were that wasn't, that was out. Laws were that was edifying, and until the next time, I'm gonna say, Shalom.